Have you ever seen a scandal on the news and wondered why the people involved chose to make such terrible decisions? Maybe you've witnessed friends or family making bad choices, ruining their lives in a single moment just to better their social status or get more money. It's easy to sit back and watch a train wreck unfold before you, pointing out all the flaws of others. But what about your bad decisions? In this video, we want to help you understand why people often make seemingly poor decisions for material gain, and how you can prevent yourself from falling into the same trap. As always, everyone's personal lives are complicated and varied. With our videos, we want to give you building blocks that you can apply in most situations. So, if you want to learn how to hack your brain to make better decisions, keep watching. When we use the word decision, we are referring to an act of coming to a conclusion about a specific situation and following that through. A simple example of a decision we all make every day is what to eat for a meal. Whether you're on the poverty line, rich as hell, or even if you're a kid, you can decide what you are or aren't going to eat. Of course, having little or no money will have a different factor on the outcome of your decision compared to someone that is spoiled for choice. Did you know that every day it is estimated that your brain makes over 2,000 decisions? They range from what to wear, when to take a shower, what route to take to work, all the way through to how you treat the people that you come into contact with. If someone questions a decision that you have made, it can leave you feeling embarrassed or even angry. The energy that goes into making any one of those decisions is around 20% of your brain function at the time. So, if you're questioned, your reaction is partly down to the fact that you put effort into the decision-making process, and you feel that it's been a waste of time because someone doesn't agree with you. Now at this point, you have two options. Let's say it's a friend who is asking why you didn't invite them to your barbecue party at the weekend. You can assess the situation and put yourself in the other person's position. By doing this, you can mentally navigate all the different reasons and also empathise with how your friend might feel about your choice, coming to a well-balanced answer. Or you can choose the easy option, which takes far less energy. You can continue to ignore them or maybe give them an immediate knee-jerk reaction and tell them that you didn't want them there anyway, even if that's not the truth. A knee-jerk reaction is one that's instinctive. You almost don't have to think about it, like when someone's coming to attack you and you instinctively jerk your knee up towards them. This is often portrayed in Hollywood movies, and it's a classic defense technique. And that's just it. With knee-jerk reactions to comments or decisions, it's defensive because you immediately think that the other person is attacking your point of view, and often it just leaves you feeling like a jerk. So, why do we make such immediate decisions and reactions? Bad decisions are part of a pattern that has formed when your brain strives to meet its core goals of protecting you and preserving energy. The problem comes when decision-making and reacting to all situations becomes a habit, and there is no mindful calculation of the outcomes. A great example of this is choosing what to wear in the morning. If you're at a school or place of work that uses a uniform, you may recall a time when you got dressed, went to work, and then thought to yourself, "Oh, I don't even remember getting dressed this morning." The same goes for taking the same route to work or a familiar location. Oftentimes you can arrive at the destination and think to yourself, "Wow, I don't even remember anything about how I got here." This isn't to say that in the moment of getting dressed or in the moment of driving to work, you aren't present or acting safely. It's just that your brain has taken every decision you made in that sequence of events as a habitual pattern with the same outcome. If anything had changed, such as a dog jumping out on the sidewalk and surprising you, or if you were missing part of your uniform because it was still in the dryer, that would have disrupted your pattern and so you'd be more likely to remember it and have to make different decisions. Habitual thinking can lead to bad decision-making because you are not taking into account all of the options you have. You are choosing the easiest path. So, now we have touched on one of the reasons you can make a snap decision without considering the outcome. Let's look at the main reason that humans tend to default to a place of anger, fear, and impulsivity when making decisions or being questioned about their decisions. It's to do with an inbuilt system that we have carried with us since prehistory. You've probably heard of the fight or flight mentality, and it comes from the same place. When you are stressed or put under pressure, your body releases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol comes from the adrenal gland. If that sounds familiar, it's because it's the same place that adrenaline is also produced. It's been discovered that cortisol acts alongside adrenaline and is actually part of the function of creating memories of short-term emotional events. This is being investigated as the instinctual reason that we remember a light bulb moment of a bad event and learn to avoid it in the future. In the distant past, this would have been for immediate protection from predators. You see a grizzly bear and your cortisol levels rise with your increased anxiety. You use the feeling in your body to make an important, life-saving decision to protect yourself. Then you remember this for the next time you're confronted with a predator. In modern society, the predator hardly ever exists in such a basic form. It's likely to be a situation which builds up pressure and stress over time. This could present itself as a toxic work environment where you feel forced to make quick decisions due to the pressure from your boss, or maybe a relationship issue where you feel trapped and so make a knee-jerk reaction to the immediate bad thing without thinking of the ways it will impact the future. At these points, cortisol will have been flowing through your body for hours or maybe days, instead of just a few minutes. As with anything that is overused, your body cannot cope with these elevated levels of a so-called stress hormone, and it leads to negative physical and mental changes. A basic model of these changes can be seen here. The problem is that when you are not in a position to think clearly, you will also not be able to comprehend why you are acting differently or how it can harm you. At this point, the combination of cortisol and the physical events around you force your brain to try and protect you from the perceived threat. Predictive regulation refers to the brain's ability to anticipate the needs and prepare to fulfill them before they arise. But of course, while your brain is working overtime, it's exhausting. And if you're in a position where you need to make a major decision, just as we mentioned before, you will take the easiest option to avoid any extra work or strain on your body. While being stressed, angry, and fearful seems bleak, there is a way to prevent the situation from escalating and therefore reducing your cortisol levels. It sounds cliched, but if you use positive thinking and mindfulness, you can prompt your brain to release dopamine, which counteracts the cortisol in your system. This then lowers your instinctual need to act quickly and defensively, allowing you to make better decisions. Ways of coping with stress and decreasing your cortisol levels include concentrating on listening to your favourite songs, watching a TV show or a movie that you love, colouring in a picture or completing a crossword, taking a walk in nature for 30 minutes or more, and anything that is soothing for you. The activity you choose should be something that is easy to take part in and something that you can focus on. The whole idea is to feel happier and distract yourself from the stressful situation. Once you have calmed down and recentered your emotions, you can then approach the same situation and decision-making in a more positive and constructive manner. So, simply by recognizing that you're starting to act erratically and feel stressed is enough to push back against a cortisol release. If you need a more immediate positive trigger than going for a long walk or listening to music, you can train your brain to focus on a happy memory for a few minutes, just like remembering a time when you were valued or you made a good choice and you felt good. Now we've covered those instances where you make an awful decision due to stress and defensive behaviour, it's time to tackle the bad choices that people make when, actually, they're completely happy and in a great place already. Why on earth would we want to sabotage our happiness by making a shitty decision? Psychologists say that it's all about fear and desire. This motivates us to avoid threats and seek out rewards. These driving instincts have already been discussed in our videos such as FOMO, fear of missing out. The feeling of these emotions is so strong that the effect can be like physical pain or physical pleasure. Research has discovered that when we are offered something that has a high value reward, our brain will react differently to when there is something that is less desirable on offer. For example, can you believe that thousands of people invested in a fake health technology company, giving its creator, Elizabeth Holmes, millions of pounds, simply based on her claims that she had developed a new way of testing blood? Investors fought hand and fist to invest in Holmes' venture, and in 2015, Forbes named her as the youngest self-made billionaire with her health tech company, Theranos. It was valued at $9 billion. But, you guessed it, within 12 months, claims of fraud began to surface, and eventually Holmes' company was valued at zero, with her facing federal court charges of criminal fraud. In fact, she faces up to 20 years in federal prison, plus potentially millions in restitution and fines. So, how was she able to convince people to invest in a company with very little proof of peer-reviewed research and no public financial records? It was through the act of making it incredibly desirable. Holmes got grassroots investors and supporters such as Henry Kissinger, George Shultz, Jim Mattis and Betsy DeVos. These people are well known in America, and they even served as US presidential cabinet officials. In July 2011, Holmes was introduced to former Secretary of State George Shultz. After just a 2-hour meeting, he joined the Theranos board of directors. Holmes was recognised for forming the most illustrious board in US corporate history. Her tactics very much played into people's desire to be part of something financially lucrative, and also to their fear of missing out. Can you imagine being offered an opportunity to be part of something this successful and passing it up? What if the company became the next Microsoft, Apple, Coca-Cola or Amazon? Although investing in this fraudulent company was clearly a bad decision in hindsight, the rush of being involved and the thought of future benefits overtook their need for caution. Some investors even gave her over $100 million in one go because they were so exhilarated to be joining an elite company with a seemingly bright future. So, how can you give yourself a better chance at not making a colossal mistake when it comes to massive life decisions and investments such as purchasing a house, signing a rental agreement, choosing a new car, or even choosing a new relationship to pursue? Just take a moment to think. As long as you are aware that exciting opportunities can alter your perception, you're on the right path to being careful and making a better, more informed decision. You are allowed to feel excited and hopeful about something, just don't let it control you. Take into account all the risks, and if there is a nagging little voice that's making you unsure, review everything again. Humans love to make lists. It's even better if you write the good and bad points down by hand rather than on a digital device. Make a comprehensive list of the pros and cons, Discuss the situation with people who aren't closely involved, and then, when you come to a decision, whether it works out in your favour or not, at least you know that you did your best to calculate the risks. Now that we have looked at making decisions under pressure, making decisions when you're in a good mood, it's time to look at our third and final point for today. Why do we choose to make bad decisions in our everyday life, not just when it's a big life event? We make poor life choices and decisions every day in little ways. Why do we choose to lay in bed, scrolling on our phones instead of getting up early to walk the dog or go to the gym? Why do we prefer to stream TV shows and zone out rather than immerse ourselves in a good book? Why do we eat too much and binge on alcohol when we know that it's hurting our bodies? We all know what's good for us, so why do we choose to be lazy? Let's look at Khalil Rafati, who is now a millionaire and the founder of Sun Life Organics, a healthy living company with juice bars across several states in America. In 2003, he was living on the streets of Los Angeles, 33 years old, addicted to heroin and crack cocaine. He suffered his 9th overdose that year, and as the paramedics brought him back to life, he realised that he couldn't carry on living that way anymore. He had tried to get clean and change his life many times before, so what made this different? What made him force himself to spend 4 months in rehab and look at leading a life where he made better decisions on a daily basis? Our thoughts and decisions are made in the prefrontal cortex. This sits right at the top of our brain. For many decades, scientists believed that addiction and habitual behaviour had value in a person's mentality because, put simply, they didn't have to spend the brain power or energy to think about it. There was no struggle to decide right from wrong. They just completed the action and got the result over and over again. Like a drug addict going through the motions, be they bad decisions or not, to acquire their next hit. It was a chain reaction with no way to stop it once a process had started. Hence, it's incredibly hard to break an addiction. However, recent studies have found that this is not the whole truth. We can, in fact, stop that addictive or habitual chain of thoughts and decisions by giving ourselves micro rewards along the way, changing our thought patterns a little bit at a time. This, in essence, is what Khalil Rafati did to break his addiction and become healthy. By making a set of smaller, achievable goals, your brain will be able to release dopamine for every little win that you make, and this shot of the happy hormone makes it easier and more pleasant to reach the next goal. So, when Khalil checked himself into rehab, this was his first micro goal that was reached. Then, because he was in a safe space, he was able to help reprogram his brain through positive reinforcement, giving his body time to kick the physical addiction to the drugs that he was on. As he started to feel better across 4 months, not just 4 weeks, he was able to think more clearly about his next steps without fear and stress that he had to simply exist to find his next hit or to find a place to sleep every night. The immediate natural reaction of his body fighting for life with the paramedics was enough to break his addictive behaviour for the little time that he needed to book himself into rehab. One of the most important takeaways from this video should be that no matter how small your goal is, once it's achieved, your body will react and release dopamine, making you feel good. We suggest writing down your achievable small goals for the day, and then, at the end of the day, ticking them off when they're completed. This can be as simple as putting your laundry away, cooking a new recipe, doing the grocery shopping, completing your school homework, or making time to talk to your friends. When you tick it off the list, you will feel better. Once you realise that making good, informed decisions is easy, you will start to become more self-aware. This means that when it comes to the bigger things or an unexpected moment in life, you should be mindful enough to realise that a little planning goes a really long way. If you have enjoyed this video and you're inspired by what you've seen, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Let's change the world together.